Take a step back and look at what this moment actually represents, because it is bigger than a routine entry list update, bigger than a simple ranking milestone, and bigger than the usual pre-tournament chatter that surrounds a Grand Slam. Alex Eala is in the Wimbledon main draw, not in the qualifying field, not in that exhausting, uncertain lane where a player has to survive multiple extra matches before the event truly begins, not waiting for outside help, not hoping for a late opening, straight into the main draw where the pressure is different, the preparation is different, and the possibilities are far greater. And once that became official, the conversation did not stop at her name appearing on the list. It accelerated because Wimbledon's own tournament director, Jaime Baker, attached a larger meaning to it. He did not frame this as a courtesy. He did not present it as a sentimental nod to a rising name. He laid out why this matters. Direct main draw entry means Eala avoids the physical wear and emotional strain that qualifying can impose, and that changes the entire equation heading into one of the sport's most demanding events. Instead of spending energy just trying to get in, she can direct everything toward competing once she is there. That is a major difference. On grass, where timing, confidence, and freshness can shape everything, that advantage is not small. It can be decisive.
It has impacts across the whole grounds, the whole event, television, players, everything. You know, over 40,000 people coming in here every day, so it's a big thing.
But what made Baker's remarks resonate even more was the scale of what he suggested her presence could bring. He indicated that Eala's matches could draw as many as 40,000 fans to Wimbledon. Just pause there for a second. 40,000. That is not a casual number. That is not the kind of figure attached to a passing trend or a brief burst of online curiosity. When a tournament of Wimbledon's stature publicly links a player to that level of spectator interest, it tells you the conversation has moved well beyond promising young player. And that is what makes this moment so revealing. Wimbledon does not build its decisions around noise. It is not an institution known for leaning into hype because the internet is excited for a week. It is one of the most tradition-conscious and carefully managed events in global sport. So when someone in that position speaks with that kind of confidence about audience pull, it strongly suggests that the projection comes from analysis, not instinct. Ticket demand patterns, viewership expectations, broadcast appeal, audience behavior, commercial evaluation, the kind of internal assessment major tournaments rely on before they publicly align themselves with an emerging name. What that means in practical terms is simple. Eala is no longer just being evaluated as a player with talent. She is being recognized as a player with impact. Baker made clear that the tournament's philosophy is rooted in data, not emotion, not headlines, not social media chatter. And if the data around Alex Eala is pointing in one direction, then Wimbledon's response tells you exactly how seriously that signal is being taken. She has generated attention beyond the usual tennis ecosystem. Fans are tracking her. Broadcasters are noticing her. Organizers understand that her matches are becoming events people want to experience, not just scores they check later. That distinction matters because once a player begins to influence demand, ticket demand, audience demand, coverage demand, the sport starts treating that player differently, not preferentially in the sense of bending rules, but strategically in the sense of recognizing momentum when it is real. And according to the picture painted around Eala right now, that momentum is not speculative. It is measurable. This is why her direct place in the Wimbledon main draw is not being viewed as some symbolic gift. It is being understood as a reflection of where she now stands in the game. The attention is earned, the timing is earned, the opportunity is earned, and there is another layer to this that should not be ignored. Baker also acknowledged the broader competitive reality surrounding the sport's biggest events. Yes, the Grand Slams share a common purpose in showcasing elite tennis, but no one should pretend there is not an undercurrent of rivalry between them. Each major wants to protect its prestige. Each one wants the biggest names, the strongest narratives, the widest audience reach. Wimbledon may be historic, iconic, and globally secure in reputation, but even institutions at that level understand that relevance is not something you preserve by standing still. That is why the embrace of emerging stars matters, not as a rejection of tradition, but as part of preserving it. Wimbledon has reached its status through continuity, yes, but also through adaptation, through recognizing when the next compelling figure in the sport is arriving and making sure that figure is part of the story on its biggest stage. And in this context, Eala is not simply another player filling out a bracket. She represents fresh energy at exactly the kind of event where new stars can become lasting ones. Earlier this this season, one of the more striking developments around her was the report that she had become one of the most in-demand players on the WTA Tour from a ticket perspective, with hundreds of thousands of fans eager to watch her throughout the year. That is an important point because this was not just about likes, clips, or online mentions. It reflected real-world appetite. People wanted to be in the stands. They wanted to witness the rise in person. In a tour full of established champions, proven stars, and globally recognized names, that level of growing interest is not easy to generate. It stands out precisely because the competition for attention is so intense, and the more consistently that demand appeared, the more people inside the sport started paying close attention. Tournament operators noticed, television partners noticed, decision makers noticed. It became harder and harder to dismiss what was building around her as temporary excitement, but popularity by itself does not get you taken seriously at the top of the sport. Tennis still asks the same hard question of everyone. Can you back it up where it matters most? For Eala, the answer started becoming much harder to argue against during the 2026 grass court season. That is where this story sharpens. Grass is unforgiving. It tests movement, instincts, adaptability, composure. It exposes hesitation quickly. And during this stretch, Eala showed that she could not only handle the surface, but begin to thrive on it. The clearest example came at the Birmingham Open, where she arrived as the top seed and ended up delivering a statement run. The final against Nicola Bartunkova was exactly the kind of match that reveals what a player is made of. She lost the first set. The pressure shifted. The match was right there, threatening to get away from her, and instead of fading, she responded. Her level rose, her consistency improved, her composure held. She adjusted, stayed present, and fought through a demanding contest to win 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 after more than 2.5 hours. That scoreline tells its own story. This was not a comfortable title run, finishing with a straightforward final. This was a test of nerve, patience, and resilience. With the deciding set locked at 5-all, she did not retreat. She stayed assertive. She trusted her game under pressure. She delivered in the exact stretch where matches and sometimes trajectories can turn. When she closed it out, it was more than a trophy. It was a breakthrough. The victory snapped a difficult run against Czech opponents and placed her in notable company among Birmingham champions, alongside players such as Maria Sharapova, Ashley Barty, and Angelique Kerber. That alone would have made the week significant, but she did not stop there. She carried that momentum straight into Berlin, and this is where the argument about her readiness for Wimbledon gained even more force. Berlin did not offer a soft path or a forgiving field. It offered elite-level resistance, and match after match, Eala kept proving that Birmingham was not a one-off. Elena Rybakina, a Grand Slam champion and one of the most dangerous power players in the women's game, could not halt her progress. Alina Svitolina, a former world number 3 with deep experience on the biggest stages, could not solve her either. Those are not cosmetic wins. Those are the kind of results that change how the locker room sees you, how the media frames you, and how tournament projections begin to shift. She moved through that draw with a calmness that stood out. Pressure moments did not seem to rush her. The stage did not seem to shrink her game. She looked less like a player trying to prove she belonged and more like one beginning to operate as if she already knew it. By reaching the semifinals of a major grass court event, she sent a message that was difficult to ignore. Even though her run ended against Ludmila Samsonova, the larger takeaway remained intact. The more important story was not the semifinal defeat. It was the quality she had shown across multiple weeks against serious opposition on a surface that demands adaptation at speed. That is why the conversation around her has changed. The victories are too significant and the timing is too important to reduce this to potential. Birmingham delivered a title. Berlin delivered a semifinal. Along the way came wins over a Grand Slam champion in Rybakina and a former world number 3 in Svitolina. That combination has moved her from intriguing to credible in a hurry, and that shift has not been confined to the court. As the results have strengthened, the attention around her matches has continued to expand. Reports tied to engagement and audience behavior have suggested that Eala's matches have been generating unusual levels of interest relative to standard WTA events, whether through television audiences, digital activity, or ticket demand, her presence has become increasingly valuable. Now put those two tracks together, winning and drawing, competitive substance and audience pull. That is where the case becomes especially compelling for a tournament like Wimbledon. Because once a player is doing both, producing results against elite opponents while attracting significant interest from fans around the world, the discussion naturally changes. It is no longer about whether that player deserves to be present. The real question becomes what that player might do with the stage once it is fully hers. And that is exactly where Eala now stands entering Wimbledon. She arrives not just with optimism, but with a body of recent work that supports high expectations. A title in Birmingham, a deep run in Berlin, momentum built on grass, not assumed on reputation, wins that hold up under scrutiny, evidence that she can improve as tournaments progress rather than fade under the accumulating pressure. That trait may be one of the most important indicators of all. Some players look dangerous early in events and vulnerable later. Others settle as the rounds deepen, solve conditions more effectively, and begin to look more comfortable the bigger the occasion becomes. Eala's recent grass court run suggests she may belong in the second category. The deeper she went, the stronger and more confident her tennis appeared. Throughout Birmingham, she had to navigate conditions and circumstances that can derail less established players. Weather interruptions, rain delays, shifting schedules, the burden of being in a championship match. None of it seemed to break her rhythm permanently. If anything, the obstacles appeared to pull a more resilient version of her game to the surface. In the final, against an opponent presenting a distinct challenge, she stayed composed and found answers when the pressure was at its highest. Those are exactly the qualities major tournaments respect most. Talent opens the door, adaptability keeps you in the draw. Composure under pressure is what allows a player to turn a good run into something much more consequential. So as Wimbledon approaches, Eala is not arriving with vague promise. She is arriving with evidence. Evidence that she can handle adversity. Evidence that she can thrive on grass. Evidence that she can beat players with major credentials. Evidence that she can carry expectation from one event into the next without losing her edge. That mattered in Berlin as much as anywhere. After Birmingham, the attention around her intensified. Fans were more invested. Media focus expanded. The tennis world was watching to see whether the breakthrough would be followed by consolidation or letdown. Instead, she answered with another strong run through a field packed with danger, reaching the semifinals and strengthening the impression that she is one of the most compelling names heading into Wimbledon. And there does seem to be something especially natural about her game on grass right now. The movement looks cleaner. The choices look clearer. Her confidence appears more visible point to point. Opponents have had increasing difficulty disrupting her rhythm. There is a sharper sense of belief in the way she constructs matches on this surface, and that is not a small development heading into the sport's most famous grass court tournament. Perhaps just as important, she will not carry into Wimbledon the additional burden that qualifying imposes. That matters physically because extra matches on grass can take a toll quickly. It matters mentally because qualifying demands urgent survival before the tournament has even fully begun. And it matters strategically because every ounce of preparation can now be directed toward the main draw itself. That is one of the quiet but significant advantages in all of this. Instead of arriving taxed, she arrives positioned. And from Wimbledon's perspective, that creates a very clear picture. Here is a player whose performances justify the attention. Here is a player whose popularity reflects genuine audience excitement rather than empty noise. Here is a player whose rise has unfolded step by step across the grass season in a way that looks increasingly credible the closer the calendar gets to SW19. Birmingham was the breakthrough. Berlin confirmed it was real. Wimbledon now offers the grandest stage yet. So the old question, does she belong here, feels outdated now. Her recent results have answered that. The direct main draw entry reinforces that. The audience interest surrounding her reinforces that too. The more relevant question is the one everyone now seems to be asking. How far can this level take her? Because everything surrounding Eala at this moment points in the same direction. She has built momentum through performance. She has expanded her reach through rising fan demand. She has shown an ability to absorb pressure, solve problems, and grow stronger within tournaments. And she now steps into Wimbledon with both opportunity and expectation fully in front of her. The spotlight is unquestionably brighter. The attention is unquestionably larger. But so is the evidence. She has won on grass. She has gone deep on grass. She has beaten major caliber opposition on grass. She has handled difficult match conditions, long battles, and shifting circumstances without losing her competitive clarity. She has become one of the most closely watched players of the grass court swing, not because people were told to watch, but because the combination of results and intrigue made it impossible not to. And that is why so many eyes will be on her when she walks onto the lawns at Wimbledon. Not out of curiosity alone, out of belief that something meaningful may be building here. At this point, the buildup has done its job. The analysis has done its job. The projections, the numbers, the momentum, the growing audience, all of it has brought her to this point. She now enters Wimbledon carrying confidence from recent success, experience from high-level wins, and the freedom that comes from starting where every player wants to start, in the main draw, with a real chance to make a run. And now the conversation shifts to the only thing that can settle what comes next. The stage is set, the preparation is in place, the momentum is real, the opportunity is enormous. What remains is tennis.